Well, hello, my beautiful friends. Teresa Lusk here, host of the Teresa Lusk Show. And, it's been a little while since we have done a live, but, when I find these special guests that just I really feel could encourage the life of a person, an individual, a woman, a man, I want to bring them on in a live setting so that you can get to ask questions, so that you can get to spend a little time with people who have some expertise, have an encouraging demeanor. And with that, I'm going to introduce you to Pam Drzewiecki. And this woman, let me tell you, she's amazing. She is the founder of Powerful Purpose, and she's going to tell you a little bit about Purpose Den and Feel the Purpose and a few other things that she does. But I want to encourage you and let you know that this is a time of empowerment. This is a time for you to get all those thoughts that are all over the place. I want you to know this is the time for you to get to ask questions, for you to be inspired, be encouraged. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to dig in. She's a life coach, a business coach, and she has great expertise. So help me welcome our awesome Pam. Pam, welcome to the Teresa Lusk Show.
I am so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Listen, I am excited to have you on because you actually were an inspiration to my life. That's actually how we met, because somebody gave me your name. I reached out to you, and you were just so graceful in the way that you reached right back out. You had a plan. You really helped me out. And one of the things that I really figured out that you were so helpful in is really kind of removing the cloudiness from things that I was thinking. I had so many thoughts all over the place, desires, thoughts, etc., when it came to business and jobs and blah, blah, blah. And you just kind of helped me just move those things out the way. And I thought, this is a woman who I think a lot of other women need to hear from. And not just that, you're a woman of faith, and your heart is to reach out the women of faith. So tell us, first of all, a little bit about yourself. How did you get into life coaching and business coaching?
It's my pleasure to share a little bit about my story. I was in the insurance industry for 28 years. And in that time frame, I went from a receptionist to answering the phone, and then worked my way up to becoming chief of staff of this insurance firm. Wow. And in that time frame of working on this, life had a lot of circumstances and stops and goes that I had to deal with, like most of us, right? Like we have these challenges along our way, and we don't realize what's in front of us until we step out of it. And I just think that is exactly what happened to me. And the more I work with other women, they sense the same thing. So once I hit that chief of staff level, I hired myself a coach to be a better leader. And maybe it was a little bit of confidence that I needed to grow into. There was a lot of longevity on my team, so they were used to me being a certain way. And at that point is when I really felt the need or the call to do something different. So there I was, 28 years in the insurance industry. I was 50 years old when I left the business, a business that I thought I was going to retire in, and started my own coaching practice. And that is what drew me here today, is to help women identify what it is that is their core value, and how do they focus on that, not being selfish and not being all by themselves, but how do they encompass those core values into their lives. So that's when Powerful Purpose was born.
Okay, wow. Well, that sounds like an amazing story. I think it's interesting because there are a lot of women who are going to watch this that actually work for a corporate type business, and things like that. So not everybody who uses a life and business coach is an entrepreneur. Some
Right.
people could actually be working in a corporate office or some sort, and they could even be a receptionist. Can I tell you something? I was a receptionist. I wish I would have known about the idea of a life coach or a business coach. Now, I don't know if that many years ago they had them,
I don't
you
know
know,
either, but
right. But you know what? That would have been so essential. So if there's a woman who's working, let's say there's a woman who's working for somebody, would would a life coach and business coach be effective for her? Like, when does she know, hey, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be at an entry level job, mid level, or high level. When does she know that she could use a person like yourself to help her, move forward with her aspirations? And maybe it's even within the company. Like, how does
Mhm.
that work?
Yeah, I think what I've found is that a lot of women that I work with or meet with, they end up finding a little bit of emptiness going on, or they're feeling like their life is what I like to call it like a hamster wheel. They get up in the morning, they just start doing, and there's no pausing. There's no true purpose. They're not connecting with the people around them, with their faith. They're not connecting. And you're absolutely right. You don't have to be an entrepreneur or a business owner. A lot of times it's leadership coaching that I end up doing to help them understand, to help them really have the voice in the room that it's okay to ask questions. It's
Mhm.
okay to say, you know what, this isn't enough and I do want more. So that I think is very interesting, that if we think about all the women that we know personally in our lives that have either changes in their lives or big things happening, or it's been the status quo all the time, it's okay to switch up that status quo. It
Mhm.
really is okay. So those women, when I think about it, is pretty much mostly 40 and after. I mean, granted, earlier years, strategic thinking partner, and doing all that work we could do together. But if you really want to make changes, then I would say you've lived life for a little while to
Sure.
understand that you have
I
to
will
build.
say though, I wish I would have started early though. I mean, that's what I was saying. I wish I would have started early. I wish I would have invited someone like yourself. What are some of the most common things that somebody like yourself deals with women? Can you give me a variety of examples, maybe of some corporate people who are working for corporate and people who are working for themselves or trying to get a startup business, or maybe even people who just have personal growth that they want? Can you give us an example of each of those just briefly?
Sure, sure. Like on the corporate side, somebody was hired to say somebody, and I know this woman, but I'll say somebody that was hired to be a VP in a corporate level, vice president in a corporate level. She was they saw something in her, but she couldn't see it herself. So
Mm.
she wasn't able to come to the table, and it happened to be an all male company,
Wow.
and she was the first female and the first female vice president,
Wow.
and she hired me to help her with her confidence. So we did a lot of work around that. We About how she was going to show up in a meeting, what she was going to
Mm.
say. It's okay if you go into a meeting and you want to get somebody coffee. That's absolutely fine. I mean, I'm a big believer. My husband opens my door for me. I'm a big believer of that.
Sure.
But so we worked around how she actually wanted to show up and what she wanted to own for herself. Now, if she
Mm.
wanted to do these things, that's okay. But as long as she knew that's exactly what she wanted to do. So we worked on confidence in a professional Did that help answer your question? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and we can go to the other 2 in just a second, but I actually wanna touch on this because I think this is so very valuable for women. I'm a woman who empowers women all the time, especially in every, arena, but, strongly in ministry, but in any arena, and I just think it's so important that women understand that preparation before entering into certain situations is actually key. What you're saying is actually so very valuable. And so many women show up to the meetings, the interviews, the business meetings that might could, turn into some kind of business potential. And unfortunately, and maybe you agree with me, maybe not, but I would think so, we as women, we're very apologetic a lot of times about who we are, what we bring to the table. And it's almost like we almost want to ask permission. And it's getting better. I am seeing that we're growing out of that. We're becoming more bold.
Mhm.
But we still don't always walk in that preparation. Men have had years and generations of walking this out. Women are just starting to rise up to it. So I think you're on it when you're saying that. Helping a woman understand what is she going to say and not walking in there unprepared is so very valuable. That's amazing. I love that. Okay,
Mm.
what about entrepreneurs? What would you say about women entrepreneurs?
Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. I have to say that to
Yeah,
start, right? It's
yeah.
not for the faint of heart. It's being able to do something that you truly believe in
Mm,
and defining what your success is. Like, what is success to you? So, success when I started my entrepreneurship, I left a well-paying job to making nothing, right? So
mm,
I had that transition, and over time I had to remember what I wanted to do, what was in my heart,
mm,
what was my definition of success when I first started this business. So I would
mhm.
say that is like really identifying what success means to you. So as the years go on, and if you're not hitting the outward marks, you
Mhm.
could go back to, oh, wait a minute. My definition of success was I was going to help 2,500 women by 2020. So
Mhm.
that was my initial goal.
Okay.
And then I define what that meant. How was I going to help these women? So I think
Mhm.
with the entrepreneurship, and don't be afraid to ask for help,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
really be aware of what you're saying yes to and what you're asking.
Mhm. That's good though, but I just heard you say that you left a really well-paying job, which a lot of people would rather stay miserable or empty for the pay. But those who understand that there's so much more on the inside of them, they're willing to take the risk. Nobody said the risk was going to be comfortable,
Mhm.
but it might pay off, if you continue to go back to the things that you defined to begin with, which was, what do I define as success for me? What does it look like for me? And I think that's really good. I think even asking yourself that question, going back and like putting it up somewhere, going, this is why I left my job to begin with. Because then you go, did I really do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? I've been there where I've gone, what am I doing? But knowing that the Lord was moving me out of a certain place that was somewhat comfortable, but I was comfortable with the amount, but also miserable at the same time. Like, you can be comfortable because you know that you don't have to worry about the rent, but you know that
Mhm.
there's so much more, even financially. So that's a big risk that you take. So I think that's good. Okay, so what about women just on a personal level? What are some things that they come to seek help for?
Sure. I just started this group, this compassionate care circle group, and it's for women that are caught in that sandwich generation of taking care of children,
Mm,
taking care of elderly parents, and focusing on how to run the house or how to go to work or how to do things like that. And I think the biggest thing is it's really hard in the coaching world, and we talked a little bit about this, right, Teresa? It's like it's hard in the coaching world because they like to promote that it's all about you, right? So
Mhm.
there's this really fine line on that, and at least in my world, there's a very fine line about being selfish and it's all about me versus it's all about him. And so I think the work that I do with women that are maybe just trying to survive, because that's one of my thing is like you want to thrive, not just survive, right?
Correct,
So
yes.
how are we going to make your life thrive? And that may be that this woman gets up 15 minutes earlier in the morning to have
Mhm.
prayer and journal time, and all of a sudden that changes the way the rest of her day goes. So we do things like that. We work a lot on gratitude. We work a lot about giving back and giving yourself time for that sacred space that you need to revive yourself to be able to
Mhm.
thrive. So
That's
that's
right.
the kind of work that I do with just if not just like personally, if they're looking
Right,
for that. That could be a
right,
business owner, that could be a professional, that could be a stay-at-home mom. I
right.
think we all need that.
Absolutely. I think that's good. I think people who are watching and will watch need to hear this because, and this is not even like try to push Pam, awesome Pam onto them. It's the value of, listen, I've actually invested in coaching a couple years ago, when I had a major life shift and it was, I'll be honest with you, I actually think in many ways it was better than counseling. And I'm a like I counsel for a living and I do
Mhm.
coaching for a living as well. But for me personally, when life started taking a different direction than what I ever thought it would, I found that coaching was so much better because it's not just focused on, oh, the trauma of life, but it's focused on where is God taking you? Where's the evidence around you? And that's really what it boiled down to was where is the evidence around you that you can target and go, okay, I see the hand of God here. I see his hand
Mhm.
there. I see his hand here. And when you start pinpointing those things, that's what a coach does. They're not so necessarily talking about your past. They're focused on your present. And not
Mhm.
that counselors can't do that, but we're just a little like when you do coaching, I think you could agree, you're just a little more loose than when you're having to do the very intense counseling stuff,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Forward thinking, right? Like being present and forward thinking is not as much as how did I mean, we talk about how did you get here, right? So because
Right.
that's my story. Like I was married for 16 years to somebody else, and all of the stuff that I was doing through those years and stayed faithful to him, and he financially, emotionally, physically relied on me for everything, right? But when we make those tough decisions,
Mhm.
those do become the right decisions. And I think by making that tough decision, you start making the right decisions, and then everything else just starts coming in. And
Mhm.
because you're changing your mindset and you're being present and forward thinking
Yeah,
and not
that's good.
looking as much on the I mean, the trauma needs to be addressed. I'm not doubting
Correct, yeah.
that at
Yes,
all.
correct. No doubt, no doubt. Or you'll go around ruining your life and everybody else's life at some
Yes,
point.
yes.
Yes, but I think, you hit something there, when you said, the tough decisions, they lead you to the right place because you were brave enough. Pam, this is the thing about women that, I've always said that women have such a tolerance. When I'm being really, really funny, but not very nice, I'll just say sometimes we have the spirit of stupid over us, like, because we put up with so much, and the truth is that when a woman finally chooses to make some really hard decision, like a divorce or to invest a large sum of money that she has no idea is going to produce or not, or to start living just for herself mostly and not just for her kids and family anymore, right? It actually I think it opens up a world of exciting possibilities because when you make one tough choice, you already took one of the hardest steps. So now it opens up the way to make a whole bunch of other hard choices. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yes, yes.
Right. And the possibilities are endless. And
Mhm.
so I think that's something exciting that we need to consider. Um, what do you say to that? Have you seen the women that you've worked with that once they make that one hard decision, it's like, boom, one thing starts falling into place after another?
It's so true. I mean, I had said, I was like living proof. People around me were living proof of making those tough decisions, and even going back to a woman speaking up in a meeting, a portfolio meeting, and making the choice to say, "No, this is what I have, and this is my outline. And I know
Mhm,
this outline is proven to work."
mhm,
So, standing up for what you feel is right. And
mhm,
I think that's what's really important is understanding the awareness around that. And
mhm,
yeah, by standing up or making a decision, it may be really, really hard. And
mhm,
that hard might not just be for an hour or a day, a
mhm,
year, 2 years.
mhm.
It may be a long time that comes
Whew,
with
say it.
it. But
Yes.
but you keep on believing and surrendering, and all of a sudden, that cloud or that
Mhm,
shade that's been over them really
mhm.
starts to brighten up, and then you say, "Oh, yeah, now I understand why I was drawn to make this decision."
That's good. You said something that I think is so very important to emphasize because I think that some of us go through a season of I'll just take a divorce for instance. That takes so long to heal from. Sometimes,
Mhm,
we think, oh, within a year after going through this divorce, I'll be okay, and that's not always true. So
mhm,
I'm using that example because it's one of the most dramatic ones.
mhm,
So saying this and being honest, let's just be honest that some things can take a good while to heal from, like, to the point of wholeness. However, as you go, there is wholeness, bits of wholeness being acquired. So you're never losing while you're healing. Could you
mhm.
say that's true? You're
Oh,
never losing while you're
absolutely.
healing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
Um,
beautifully said, actually. That absolutely.
Yeah, it feels like it though. It'll feel like it. Some things will feel like it. So this is just encouraging women. And it's discouraging but encouraging that you may go through a little long suffering of a long suffering type stuff. But as women of faith, we know this. The Lord's got you. And if we surrender, like you said, and surrendering is daily sometimes, and it's moment by
Mhm.
moment sometimes, and it's month by month and year by year. One of the things that you said to me, even when we were talking, was I think the issue here is surrender because I had ideas in my head and they were running 100 miles an hour. And when you said that, and not just that, but like, what were you supposed to be doing to begin with? Like, where's your gifting that you are passionate about? Really, so you surrender that and go back to that. And actually, that process led me to go ahead and put some other steps in motion for myself. So I'm in the process of going back to the point of researching and doing what I need to do, connecting with as many people as possible. Let's talk about connections, Pam, because one of the things about women is, you said something earlier when we first started. You said, not doing this by ourselves, not isolating. Women are so good at isolating sometimes because we have these major pity parties, or we just think we're good all by ourselves. Can you address that real quickly?
Absolutely. I think those are the 2 reasons, but I think there's a third too, that we don't want to ask for help, and because
Mm,
we don't wanna bother somebody with whatever we might be going through, and that
mm,
might fall within those first 2 as well. But I'm a big believer on creating a dream team. I call it around you.
mm, mhm,
And there's different areas. We have different members in each part of our life, in our faithful life, in our family life, in our relationships, our business, professional, volunteering, our financial side. We have all these different areas of our lives. And I think it's really key to help
mhm,
you stay on a path roadmap, right? Creating the roadmap and having this dream team with you. that you don't have to go it alone. And if you're creating this dream team around you before, and you give yourself some time to think about who is on that team, then asking for help is okay. Because a lot of times when you have that person, or you have Jesus as your faith, right? You go right to him and you ask.
Mhm.
But when you have the people, you tell them, "Hey, I want you on my dream team. Do you mind if I come to you if I have financial questions?"
Mhm.
Most of the time, people are going to feel really good that
Mhm.
you consider them to be part of
Sure.
that dream team.
Right.
So now
Yeah.
it takes away the hardness of asking for
Yes.
help.
Yeah, and we're so used to doing everything by ourselves, so I think it is
Mhm,
very important that we learn how to ask. I can tell you, me personally, I'm an extremely independent woman, but when
mhm,
my life took that shift a couple of years ago, it changed my perspective. And can I tell you, I tell people this, the most unlikely people are the ones that were by my side. It wasn't those
mhm,
so-called leaders. I'm a pastor, I'm a minister, so I had a lot of strong people on, that in your circle. Guess what? Some of those people were nowhere to be found. It actually turned
mhm.
out to be the least likely people, and it's been one of the most amazing gifts I've ever had, because these people are humble and they just want to serve. They want to serve
Right.
somebody who they thought has invested in them quite a bit, right? Because I believe in giving back. I think that's another thing that I want to address is, the give back. Uh, idea, because I love the idea of having this person in your corner. I mean, I have strong, beautiful people in my life that I'm so thankful for. I'll never forget them. They're still my cheerleaders. They're still on the sidelines going, come on, you can do this. You can do this about anything that I dream up. Right. On that same note, though, I also want to encourage women, because I really believe so. The Bible speaks of what you sow, you reap, and that I'm going to bring that on kind of a positive light,
Mhm.
because the Bible, when we think about sowing and reaping, a lot of times we have a negative connotation to it, like, ooh, you better behave because what you sow you reap, right? But there's actually a sowing and a reaping that's beautiful. Like what
Mhm.
you give to people's lives after so many years, it begins to return to you. Why
Mhm.
is it important, Pam? Tell us, why is it important? And I'm going to say something before you answer that question. I'm going to set the question. Why is it important for women to give back? Okay, so I'm going to put that question on pause. But in the meantime, if you just joined our live, I am on right now with Pam Drzewiecki, and she is a life and business coach. And I have personally encountered her services, and I can tell you that the woman is amazing. She can help get clarity. Visit her website, powerfulpurpose.com. Is that correct? Am I getting that correct so far? Because we don't have.
There's a dash in there,
Okay.
powerful-purpose.com.
All right. So be sure you visit that. But we're talking about women, and we're talking about how to empower you, whether you're a woman who stays at home, whether you're an entrepreneur, a woman in ministry, a woman who works in a corporate office, a woman maybe who is both. Maybe you work for a corporate office and you are entrepreneuring it a little bit. And so you just need some help. You need some encouragement. You need some strength. Life coaches are invaluable. As a person myself, I've invested in other life coaches as well. But I'm telling you that it's a powerful thing. So if you've been running around in circles and like, just your wheels turning, but you can't seem to break into that next level, I encourage you to contact Pam, because she is going to be able to give you the 1, 2, 3, or maybe just help you pinpoint what's going on, so I want to do that. But talk to me a little bit about the give back concept, because no woman gets anywhere, in my opinion, based on what I've seen for years. I've been doing stuff for years, but without giving back first. In
Oh,
some, in most cases.
oh, yeah, absolutely. So when I started Powerful Purpose, one of the things that I wanted to be able to share was to have a give back inside my business. And that's when I decided, I looked in my closet, and I'm going to tell you a little how that started, but why it's so impactful for the women that are part of this project. I look around and I said, how can I help women that can't afford my services? So I go to homeless shelters and I do workshops and different things like that for free. That is part of my
Mhm,
give back.
mhm.
But then I wanted to do something more impactful, and I looked around and I had all of these purses in my closet that I probably used for one season, and they just were sitting there. So I decided to start Fill the Purse with Purpose.
Hmm,
And that's the give back. And people
mhm.
donate gently used pocketbooks filled with items that you would find in your pocketbook. And it's at Christmas time, the drive is. So they are given to these women as gifts from battered shelters, homeless facilities. Child Services is starting to adopt it. And they're having the children pick a purse out for their mom.
Aw.
So there's so many great things from it, but what I love the most about it is when the women give me their purses. One part of the purse project is they I encourage them to write a note for the recipient.
That's good.
There's not any name on it. It's anonymous, but I have them write them an encouraging note from their heart to the woman that's going to receive that. So it's
Mhm,
twofold. We have the woman that feels amazing that they were able to give back to somebody that truly is going to cherish this gift. So they
mhm.
feel wonderful about that. And then I've been at some of these locations, especially we have a location that we give to that helps women have babies that are out of wedlock and helps them raise the child and gives them the care so they don't
Yeah,
have to feel like they have to give up the child or go through abortion or anything like
right.
that.
That's awesome.
So it's beautiful. So I've been there when the mothers got to pick up their diaper bag of stuff, but then was
Mm,
able to go over and pick out something for themselves.
hmm.
So it
That's
goes
awesome.
back to
Mhm,
helping those women feel like they are important. Their baby is so
mm,
important, but they are so
mhm.
important as the mom. So I think when
Yeah.
we give back with an open heart and not looking for recognition or accolades because of what we're doing
Mhm.
is when it opens up a really warm thing in us.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's very inspirational, and I hope for those of you who are watching and those of you who are going to watch after we're done with this live stream, that you would really take that as an inspiration for yourself because Pam's efforts are absolutely beautiful. I think anybody here could, whatever area you're in, whether you're in Texas and whether you're in Connecticut, is that correct?
I am, but I've done the drive all over the United States. I've helped
Right.
different locations
Sure. Right.
take
Right.
care of that, yes.
Right. So whether you do it with Pam or it's an inspiration for your own dream that you've been thinking about helping, whether it's other women or not just women. I mean, I'm always for empowering women, but maybe that's not exactly. Maybe you want to empower children. Maybe you want to empower single dads. I don't know. But
Mhm,
women are a force, and I think that we sit on our dreams too much, and sometimes we even sit on the instruction of God a little too long because we're afraid by the voices, by the things that we're so captivated by, right? Which is it's not a good thing, just because you hear a thing doesn't make it true, and so
mhm,
in your voice, in your head. So I think that's very inspirational. Can you tell us how can a woman and if those for those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, Pam is so happy to answer them. You
mhm.
can either type them in or let us know that you want us to bring you on. We can bring you on and let you ask the question because Pam is listen, this is stuff she charges for. So she's
Mhm.
giving free advice today. You don't want to miss out on that. So if you've got a question, my friend, please post it on here. We are happy to get her to answer for you. But let's say somebody's watching right now, excuse me, and they have a dream that they've been thinking about pondering on for a while. Um, what can they do to take those incremental but very effective steps to get started? And then we do have a question here in just a little bit, but first tell us what are the three simple steps that they can do if they have something sitting on their heart and they've been sitting on their precious little self and it's time to get going? What can we do?
First, definitely identify what that is, right? Like how is that going to impact your life? Because I think that, again, we go back to that word awareness is really important. The second thing I would do is I call it brain dumping, that you just sit there and brain dump everything around that idea that you have that's really dear to your heart, everything that comes to mind that might be positive or stumbling blocks or something like that. Then after you do the brain dumping, I'm not sure if people are familiar with a SWOT, but a SWOT activity is after you do that brain dumping, I'm Italian. Can you tell I talk with my hands?
Yeah, that's
Um,
okay. That's
oh, I
good.
apologize.
Yeah, go for it.
You take your brain dump list and you write on a piece of paper 4 quadrants, okay? And
Mhm.
up in the left-hand corner, you write. Can you see that?
I think so. Yes.
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Okay.
Take your list and do that with your list. So now you're actually visualizing what it is that you want to do.
Okay.
And from there, then we start designing a plan.
Mm.
Then you could start breaking it down and designing a plan of action to a timeline of what needs to
Mhm.
be done to reach those dreams. After those 3 steps, you might find that it's not really maybe feasible. It's a lot more than you thought it would be, or the outcome isn't going to be what you really thought the outcome was going to be.
Mhm.
Or you might be like, I am so excited. I just can't wait to get started now.
Yes, yeah, that's good. I think also it's important to add, whether they add it to a line under or whatever, but also think about um, their fears and actually discuss the fears with self, even out loud, because
Yes.
sometimes the fears, they feel so real and so in the way until you actually start talking about it out loud.
Mhm.
Um, or even talking with a friend, like if they can't get to a coach, maybe talk to a friend and say, these are the things that are upsetting my soul right now, because
Mhm.
I do that all the time. I do it with, people around me. I'm like, okay, here's what happens. Here's the situation. I feel upset. Help me think this out loud. Where am I going wrong? What am I thinking that's not helping me? And it sets my soul free. Like it just sets me free pretty quickly, right? Because I deal and address those falsehoods that are sitting there. So I think being honest with yourself, that the concept that you're sharing, it
Mhm.
allows you to be honest with yourself 100%. But then there's also the being honest with yourself about, let's talk about your fears. Let's be honest about your fears. Let's be honest. I've never done anything big unafraid necessarily, for the most part. There's a couple of things that I jumped into because I knew that I knew that I knew it was the Lord and I could hear his voice 100% clearly. And then there's those other things where you're just like, I'm jumping in by faith, and so that's good. So tell us, somebody, Felina has a question. She says, how can one participate in your Fill a Purse drive? That's a great question.
That is a great question. There is some more information about the drive on my website. So if
Okay.
you wanted to go out to my website, that powerful-purpose.com, underneath Fill the Purse, there's information about that. If you're not local to me in Connecticut, I would say just reach out to me and I will definitely point you in the right direction and how you could be part of that project. Now it's not a nonprofit, so that's why it's called the project and a drive.
Yeah.
So I because there's no money exchanged, it's all done through either Amazon or, like a wish list or something like that. So I would
Mm.
be more than happy to help you be part of that.
That's awesome. I think that's great. Okay. All right. So, for those of you who are watching, like I said, feel free to post any questions that you would like for Pam, the life and business coach and founder of Powerful Purpose. You can go to her website, powerful-purpose.com. And the woman has some insight, will help you get through some of those wraparounds in your head of things that you think. And sometimes we think, one of the things that used to scare me about coaching and things of that nature before I discovered the world of it all was the finances, because it can be expensive. It can be. It's funny. And I want to say something to that, because I think, so me personally, and this may not be Pam's thoughts. These are Teresa Lusk's thoughts, and I'm okay with that. But I it took me approximately 15 years to get a master's degree, and I had a bachelor's, and part of it was in pastoral counseling, etc. And then I jumped into, um, you know, I kept pastoral counseling, but then I acquired a master's to go with it. And, Pam, I am one of these people that I'm very kingdom minded with the Lord. So I gave a lot for free for years and years and years and years and years. But eventually I hit a point where I had invested so much of myself, my time, 15 years approximately, to go from zero to a master's degree. And in between that time, I'm raising children, taking care of a home, et cetera, being a minister. And in addition to that, it cost a lot of money for me to get education, right? And so a lot of times when people look at people who are in this business, in this field, they look at it like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. And I understand that it's not $5 or whatever. Most of us have a fee of $100 or more. It ranges for everybody depending on who and what they're offering. And I've had people respond in ways that maybe were used to getting things from me for free. And now I hit a point where I said, okay, now it's time for me to value myself and give back to myself for all the hard work that I've done. But I'm going to tell you this, I've never regretted the investment that I made for myself. And I say that because there's women who might watch this who might say, well, it's expensive, I can't afford it. Listen, in 1 hour, your life can change dramatically. It can push you forward 3 and 6 months then from the place that you are, assuming that you follow the instructions and the plans that y'all came up with together, because that actually makes a difference as well. When you follow the plans, it makes a difference. So what do you say to that? Because I know there's women who are afraid to invest, but listen, we invest in hair. I mean, I can't tell you how much my hair just sitting down the chair once, however. Right. So what do you say to that?
I feel the same way as you do, Teresa. It's been years, and in the beginning, I too was. I don't think it's right, because we're undervaluing what I actually was giving to other people, and I don't think we're meant. I don't think we're meant to do that. I really don't. So I came up with a rule of thumb for me, is that I do a 10% give back. So 10% of my time, I will do a give back. And I do have a few women that are in a waiting list because they are in a spot where in the past I would have took everybody at once. And then you're right. Who was turning my lights on? Who was paying for the website design? Who's paying for my community, right? Like all of this stuff. We need to have, we are a business, but it is difficult because women are naturally nurturing. So when we go for a cup of coffee with a friend, we're going for a cup of coffee with a friend. That's the reason why changing up the meeting styles make a difference.
Right.
So I think for myself, I've invested a lot of money in a business coach and in that life coach and a confidence coach over the years, in a speaking coach, so I could do that keynote talk this past weekend. But the investment is in it for me. And by investing in ourselves, it's just going to change everything around us and
Yeah.
how we feel. So,
Eh yes, that's a great
yeah.
response. I even think that what you are willing to invest in tells how serious you are about where you want to go.
Mhm.
Because here's my thing is, and I teach this whether it's in the faith world or the secular world, what you value, you will invest in, period.
Mhm.
I don't care. That's the truth. So many people are used to just taking, and they're used to being offended at the fact that you are expecting a return for your own investment. That's really what makes the world go round is what you've invested in, now you're expecting a return on. That's life. That is sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping. And so the reason why I bring this up is because I want to encourage women to stop being afraid of investing in themselves.
Mhm.
If you saw, if you saw the coaching bill of the amount of money that I've invested in the past, it again, it was very much worth it. And there are things, can I even say this? There's a lot of things, and I want to say this to any women that are watching, that if you do get some coaching services, that there are things written in my journal from when I got that coaching that are going to be used in the future. So it actually has future value. It's not
Mhm.
just about the right now. It's not even just about the past. The past, we dealt with things that I need to deal with at that moment. But now there are things that it still has value. That journal of the however much I paid per hour per week for however many weeks I paid has future value still. And
Mhm.
that is the power of coaching for
Mhm.
business, personal, or whatever, ministry, whatever it is. And so I believe you agree. We have a question. How do you find purpose when you feel like you have already tried everything? That's a good question.
That is a great question. I think sometimes understanding, again, going back to what is that purpose? What is the why? What are your core values? I don't know if you've done that kind of work, like really thinking about that and breaking it down. Because a lot of times I thought that I had done everything in my marriage or in my career, that that I was at the breaking point. I did everything and I can't get past this. But there is always something, one more thing that can be done. And just being aware and actually talking with somebody that could help you see that. Because how true is this? We go over the same thing over and over again. So isn't that like a definition of insanity, right? Like doing the same thing over and
Mhm.
over again and expecting different results. So even though you might have tried everything, let's talk about why you feel like it's holding you back to get
Mhm.
to that purpose.
Yeah,
Is that a good
yeah,
answer
that's
for?
yes. Yeah, I mean, it's an optional answer. I mean, really, this is a personal thing that people have to work out on their own, right?
Mhm.
For myself, I felt that way. Like I went in circles. I wanted to do everything under the sun. And then through just volunteering is where I actually started to discover my purpose. And I'm not even trying to push volunteering. I'm just saying that I was miserable. So I had to go volunteer somewhere to just feel useful. I mean, I was willing to dust shelves. That's how I
Yes.
was pregnant. I couldn't go to work because I had a miscarriage before this baby. And so I was on bed rest for many months until I was this big. So then by then nobody wants to hire you. So I had to just volunteer. And through
Mhm.
my volunteering is how I found that I actually like to teach. And I like to teach adults. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this training teaching ability. And next thing you know, I'm a preacher and and so life just kept on evolving, 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 and so much more. And so I think in the doing, I don't think we were just meant to do one thing alone and then just go poof, there's your purpose. I
No.
think purpose can be multifaceted as well.
Yes.
Part of my purpose is to write, part of it is to preach, part of it is to speak, part of it is to train, part of it is, so it's multifaceted. And I think that a lot of times in America, we're trained that you just need to find that one thing and focus on that and stay on. I'm sorry, I'm dynamic. If I'm a daughter of the Most High God, I am dynamic, and so are you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So, so true.
yeah,
Absolutely. There's so much out there.
Yes, for sure.
Mm.
You have been just amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time. I want you to, you know, close us up by leaving us with some last words that maybe somebody needs to hear right now. Somebody's at home and somebody's frustrated. Maybe I'm going to bring this up because I haven't actually brought this up, and we'll see if it doesn't take us through a whole nother topic. But there's some women who actually want to do something, but they're married and their husbands do not support what
Mm.
they want to do. And that's a tough one.
It
That's a
is.
challenging one, especially for women of faith. What do you say to women who have heart's desires, but they keep seeing this resistance?
Wow, that that's a really good one because if they're women of faith, we know the dynamic, how it could be set up, right?
Right.
I really would try the best to have conversations around not so much what the desire is, but how it could help the
Mm,
family unit, right? Like
good.
how you being involved in this can
Mhm,
actually spark this in the family unit. And it's not I it's still being direct with what the message is, but I think we really need to learn how to communicate with different communication styles.
mhm, that's good. Mhm,
So I think I would spend some time understanding what the communication style is. And
mm,
even though we sometimes married 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 35 years, right?
mhm,
But all of a sudden we grow. Each
yeah,
person grows. And I think
mhm,
switching up on that communication might
mhm.
really help them find what's their heart's desire.
Yeah, that's great. That was a great answer. I think that is so, so valuable, is talking about the how it would benefit. And can I just say, as a woman who's been married before, that's the man's language. They don't wanna know
Mhm.
what it's gonna cost them. They're gonna wanna know what is the return. And so I think you have to be aware of that. I think that's a wonderful answer. And can I tell you, that is actually the same thing that you can apply to your fears.
Yes.
Instead of talking to yourself about what it's gonna cost you, talk to yourself about what it's gonna gain you. And
Mhm.
I think that is such a beautiful way to address it. That's
Mhm.
so, so good. We could turn this into a preaching sermon, Pam.
Yes,
If
we
we're not
can.
careful, we're gonna start preaching over here. All right. Okay, so in conclusion, what can we say to some amazing women who are just sitting there with potential and purpose and power and gifting, but all sorts of reasons why they're not going to? What could we say?
Okay, so I could say that I would encourage you to understand that you are a child of God. I think that
Right.
is such an important thing that we forget that we are perfectly imperfect, and it's okay that we're
Mhm.
perfectly imperfect. And whatever is on your heart, don't let it sit there too long because it may seem like I said before, a really tough decision. But when you make that tough decision for the right reason, everything else changes. So truly just stay in that moment and figure out and give yourself time to pause, be silent. I think that's another big thing is sitting silent and listening and listening. We're so busy asking and talking that we're not listening. So I would say that, and I also would say that powerful purpose was based on this proverb and Proverbs 31:25. And I think it speaks volumes to women. Can I read it?
Sure.
Okay. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future.
Mhm. That's
So
good.
I would just say that, like
Yeah.
reading that and what comes
Mhm.
up for you when you read that.
Mhm. That's really good. Yeah, it's you're speaking the word over yourself, and it's a prophetic declaration as well. And
Mhm.
we have a gentleman saying blessings to you both. I
Oh,
personally
thank
know
you.
Quadri. I love that a man is watching. I mean, that's exciting.
It is.
Um, but yes, and this is great. And I'll be honest, I think a lot of this, I know that we're so touchy-feely because we're women and whatever, but this is why I like to include the men and say, if there's men watching, because these things actually can help men as well.
Absolutely.
There aren't a whole lot of men, other men, I say this all the time in the church, empowering other men. And it is very frustrating to me, that we don't have that. So I think that a lot of what you said can absolutely be a blessing to men as well. So I hope that if there's any men in addition to Quadri watching, that you go back and watch that, because I think what you've said has been really good. And Pam, thank you so very much for taking the time to do this, and to really just share of your wisdom with no cost at all, other than for them to sit and listen to the interview, and they
Mhm.
can take off. They've already got a step ahead by getting, 1 hour basically of free
Yeah.
information, and, help that will help them. So they can find you at powerful-purpose.com. And if you're
Mhm.
interested in the Fill the Purse with Purpose project, please go to her website as well. And she will help you out there, direct you on how to help, how to get involved. It's not a nonprofit, so this isn't a tax deduction thing. It is just you getting in there and saying, you know what, I want to give back. And so I'm so thankful. You have been great. You've been an inspiration, and we really appreciate you. And we bless your
Mhm.
ministry, really, is what you're
Thank
doing.
you.
You're blessing other women. We bless that. And we pray that you continue to go out there and knock those doors down.
Thank you. I'm looking
Mhm.
forward to continuing and just,
Uh,
you you know, making the reach further and further. So, thank
that's
you for having me here tonight, and it was such a blessing to meet you. And then
Thank
we've
you.
started building this relationship. So that's the
Yeah.
connections and the growth. It's like
Yes.
just keep on meeting people.
That's right. Very, very important. Get out there and meet people. And if you're hearing anything, this is a huge key. And I'm going to go back to it as we close. This is a huge key. Connect with people, connect with people, connect with people. Pam and I were connected by somebody else who I've never even met. We met online,
Mhm.
and it's a professional person. And then here we are. And now she's on the show. We talked one time, and now we're on the show together, and we're building up, other people, because we believe in what the Lord is doing in each one of our lives. So, my friends, thank you so much for watching. You were just on with the wonderful Pam Drzewiecki at powerful-purpose.com. Reach out to her, ask her questions, ask her about how you can invest in yourself through her consultations, and how your